Hey everyone, 99% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and at 1,000 subscribers, we'll drop special stories just for you.
The war did not begin with fire. It began with silence. Across the outer colonies of Zalera, signals faded one by one. First the distant listening stations, then the trade relays, then entire cities blinking out like extinguished stars. No distress calls. No debris fields, just absence. For a people attuned to the subtle harmonies of life, the silence was unbearable. Queen Aerith felt it before anyone else. From the throne of resonance, a living structure groaned from the core of Zalera itself. She sensed a disturbance ripple through the planetary consciousness. The Luminari were not merely inhabitants of their world. They were entwined with it. Every forest pulse, every ocean current, every flicker of bioluminescent light carried meaning. And now, something vast was pressing against that meaning. Something wrong. "Your Majesty," said High Seer Velan, his voice unusually tight. "We have lost contact with the Los Frontier." Aerith did not turn. Her gaze remained fixed on the horizon beyond the crystalline spires of the capital, where the sky shimmered in soft gradients of violet and gold. "How many?" she asked. "All of them." Silence settled heavily between them. Aerith closed her eyes. For centuries, the Luminari had avoided conflict. Their technology was advanced, their knowledge vast, but their philosophy was rooted in preservation, not domination. They had seen empires rise and fall across the stars, and chose not to become one. But something had found them anyway. "Prepare the council," she said at last. The council chamber pulsed with quiet light as the elders gathered, their forms shifting subtly with emotion. Some glowed with fear, others with restrained anger. At the center stood a projection, fragmented images pulled from the last transmission before the frontier went dark. Jagged silhouettes, blackened hulls, shapes that did not move like ships, but like predators. "The Dominion," said General Kales, his tone grim. "We've confirmed it." A murmur spread through the chamber. The Dominion was not a myth, but it was close, a force spoken of in distant records, known for its relentless expansion, worlds consumed, civilizations erased or assimilated, no negotiation, no mercy. "They were never supposed to reach this sector," one elder whispered. "They weren't," Kales replied. "Until now." Aerith stepped forward, her presence silencing the room. "Then we will ensure they go no further." The words sounded firm, but deep within, something stirred, something she had not felt in a very long time. Uncertainty. The first battle came sooner than expected. Dominion vessels tore through the upper atmosphere of Zalera without warning, their descent cracking the sky itself. They did not broadcast demands. They did not declare war. They simply began. Luminari defenses activated in waves of radiant energy, elegant and precise. Towers grown from living crystals shifted and reshaped, forming barriers and weapon arrays. Guardian constructs rose from beneath the earth. Ancient protectors awakened after centuries of dormancy. And still, the Dominion advanced. Their machines adapted mid-conflict, shifting configurations, absorbing energy patterns, evolving faster than the Luminari could respond. "What are they?" Lyra asked, standing beside her mother on the command terrace. Aerith looked down at her daughter. Princess Lyra was young, by Luminari standards, but her mind was sharp, her spirit brighter than any star in their skies. She had studied diplomacy, philosophy, the art of balance, not war. "An enemy," Aerith said quietly, "one we cannot reason with." Lyra watched as a distant city collapsed under the weight of a descending war beast, its form massive, mechanical, and disturbingly organic. "Then we must stop them," she said. Aerith placed a hand on her shoulder. "Yes," she replied. But for the first time, she did not know how. The war stretched on. Days became cycles. Cycles blurred into something harsher, something relentless. The Luminari adapted as best they could. Their strategies grew sharper, their defenses more aggressive. But every victory was temporary, every loss permanent. Entire forests burned. Oceans turned dark with debris. The very soul of Zalera began to fracture under the strain. And still, the Dominion came. Inside the citadel, Lyra refused to remain sheltered. "You're sending others to fight in our name," she argued, standing before her mother in the inner chamber. "I should be with them." "You are not a soldier," Aerith replied. "Then make me one." Aerith's expression hardened. "You are the future of our people." "And what future is that?" Lyra shot back. "If we lose everything?" The words struck deeper than either of them expected. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Aerith turned away. "I will not risk you," she said. Lyra's voice softened. "You already are." The final breach came at the Los Ridge. It was the last defensive line before the capital. If it fell, Zalera would fall with it. Aerith led the defense personally, her presence amplifying the Luminari forces, weaving their energies into something stronger, more unified. For a time, it worked. The Dominion slowed, but not enough. They're adapting again. Kaylee shouted over the chaos. "Our barriers won't hold." Explosions rippled across the ridge. The ground itself began to tear apart as Dominion constructs burrowed upward, emerging within their defenses. "We're being surrounded." Aerith scanned the battlefield and realized the truth. This was not an assault. It was an ending. Back within the citadel, alarms echoed through the halls. Lyra stood frozen as the reality unfolded around her. "We have to evacuate," Velan urged. "And leave them?" Lyra demanded. "There will be no one left if we don't." Then Aerith appeared. Her armor was fractured. Light flickered unevenly across her form. For the first time in Lyra's life, her mother looked mortal. "Lyra," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "Come with me." They moved quickly through hidden corridors, descending deeper into the citadel than Lyra had ever been. The air grew colder, the walls older, untouched for centuries. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked. Aerith did not answer immediately. At last, they reached the sealed chamber. At its center stood a stasis pod. Lyra's breath caught. "No," she whispered. Aerith stepped forward, activating the ancient system. The pod flickered to life, its interior glowing softly. "You must leave." "I'm not leaving you." "You must." The ground trembled violently. Distant impacts echoed closer. Lyra shook her head, tears forming. "We can fight together." Aerith cupped her daughter's face. Her touch warmed despite the chaos. "Listen to me," she said, her voice breaking just slightly. "If you stay, we lose everything." Lyra's chest tightened. "And if I go," she whispered, "I lose you." Aerith's eyes softened. "Then carry me with you." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Then, slowly, reluctantly, Lyra stepped into the pod. The chamber sealed around her. "Live," Aerith whispered. The launch sequence began. Time did not heal Zalera. It calcified it. The once luminous forest dimmed to a pale glow, their rhythm slower, hesitant, as if the planet itself remembered the pain and chose caution over brilliance. Great crystalline cities stood fractured, their edges worn not by age, but by impact. The oceans, oh calmer now, carried the silent wreckage of war beneath their surface. And at the center of it all stood the queen. Aerith no longer wore the radiant regalia of old. Her form was sharper now, her light more contained, focused, restrained. Where once she had been a symbol of harmony, she had become something else entirely. Endurance. For 20 cycles, she ruled what remained. Not a kingdom, a remnant. The throne chamber had changed. Once alive with layered harmonics, the voices of the Luminari blending in shared consciousness, it now echoed with individuality. Fragmentation had crept into her people. Some wanted isolation. Others demanded retaliation. A few still clung to the old ways, believing peace would somehow return. Aerith listened to them all, and trusted none of them completely. "We cannot remain passive," General Cayley's argued, his voice edged with frustration. "The Dominion may return at any time. We need to rebuild our fleets, expand beyond Zalera." "And provoke them?" countered Elder Serial. "We survived because they left. Drawing attention could finish what they started." "They didn't leave," Cayley snapped. "They spared us. There's a difference." A murmur spread through the chamber. Aerith raised her hand, silencing them. "We prepare," she said. Quietly. Carefully, we will not invite war, but we will not be defenseless again. Her voice was calm, measured, but beneath it lay something colder than fear. Regret, later, alone within the inner sanctum. Era stood before a sealed archive, a chamber containing the last recorded essence of Zalera before the war. And at its center, a memory, a projection shimmered to life. Lyra laughing, her light bright and unbroken. The recording was old, captured during a ceremonial rite long before the Dominion arrived. Aerith reached out, her fingers passing through the image. For a moment, her composure faltered. "You would have changed everything," she whispered. But memory did not answer. It never did. The signal arrived without warning. It began as a distortion, barely noticeable within the planet's communication lattice. A flicker, a misalignment, something most systems would have filtered out automatically. But Zalera was not most systems. Its networks were alive, and they noticed. "Your Majesty," came the urgent call from the observatory spire. "We are detecting something unusual." Aerith arrived within moments. The chamber buzzed with low energy as technicians adjusted harmonic receivers, attempting to isolate the anomaly. Streams of fragmented data pulsed across translucent interfaces, chaotic, inconsistent. "It's not Dominion," one analyst said. "Their signatures are precise. This is degraded. Could it be interference?" Another asked. "No," said Velan, stepping forward slowly. His expression had shifted, not with confusion, but recognition. "Play it," Eric commanded. The room dimmed. A faint signal echoed through the chamber, broken, layered with static. At first, it sounded like noise. Then, a pattern emerged. 3 pulses. Pause. 2 pulses. Pause. A sequence so old it had not been used in centuries. A luminary distress code. The chamber fell into stunned silence. "That's not possible," Kaylee said under his breath. Aerith didn't move. "Decode it," she said. "It's fragmented," the technician replied. "We may only recover partial." "Do it." The system strained, reconstructing what it could. Symbols flickered, rearranged, collapsed, and reformed again. Then, finally, a clear identifier. Velan inhaled sharply. "No." Aerith stepped forward. "Say it." The seer turned to her, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's royal." The world seemed to narrow. "Confirm." "I already have." A pause. Then the truth settled into the room like gravity. Princess Lyra. Shock rippled through the chamber. But Aerith felt none of it. Not yet. She stared at the projection, at the signal repeating in fragile loops. Alive. After 20 cycles, alive. "Source location?" she asked. "Outer Rim." The analyst said, "Far beyond any luminary territory, and dangerously close to Dominion-controlled regions." "A trap?" Kaylee said immediately. "It has to be. They could be mimicking our codes, drawing us out." "They've never done that before," Velan replied. "They've never needed to," Kaylee shot back. The argument escalated quickly, voices rising, overlapping. Aerith heard none of it. Her focus remained fixed on the signal, on the impossible. "Enough." The word cut through the chamber like a blade. Silence followed. Aerith turned slowly, her gaze sweeping across her advisors. "For 20 cycles we have endured," she said. "We have waited. We have rebuilt what little we could." Her eyes hardened. "And in all that time, this is the first sign we receive that something, anything, of what we lost still remains." Kaylee stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if this is a Dominion deception..." "If it is," Aerith interrupted, "then we will face it. And if it isn't?" Velan asked quietly. Aerith did not hesitate. "Then I will not fail her a second time." Preparations began immediately, but not openly. This was not a mission the Luminari could afford to announce. Not to their people, and certainly not to whatever forces might be watching. A single vessel was selected, not a warship, not a flagship, a shadow. Its hull was woven from refractive crystal, capable of bending light and masking energy signatures. Its systems were stripped to essentials, no excess power, no detectable emissions. A ghost. "You're going yourself," Kaylee said, standing beside her at the docking platform. It wasn't a question. Yes. That's not strategy, he replied. That's necessary. He studied her for a long moment. Then, quietly, she may not be the same. Eretha's gaze remained forward. Neither am I. As the vessel departed Zalera, the planet faded into the distance, its dim glow a quiet reminder of everything that had been lost, and everything that might yet be found. The journey was long, dangerously so. They traveled through abandoned corridors of space, regions scarred by past conflicts, where wreckage drifted endlessly and signals echoed without origin. Navigation required constant adjustment, slipping between unstable worm channels and gravitational distortions. At times, they powered down completely, drifting silently to avoid detection. Waiting, watching, surviving, days stretched into weeks. And still, the signal persisted. Weak, but steady, like a heartbeat in the dark. Approaching source coordinates, the pilot reported. Aerith stepped forward. The viewport revealed nothing at first, just a dense asteroid field, fragments spinning slowly in a chaotic dance. No structures detected, the pilot added. No active energy signatures. Aerith narrowed her eyes. Look closer. They did, and then they saw it. Subtle, hidden, a faint distortion among the asteroids, too precise to be natural. Cloaking field, Kaylee's muttered. Eretha's voice was calm. Take us in. The vessel slipped through the field, weaving between jagged stone and silent debris. As they passed through the distortion, the illusion dissolved, and the truth revealed itself. An outpost, not dominion, not luminary. Something improvised, modular structures fused together, patched with mismatched materials from multiple species. Defensive turrets, inactive but very real, lined its outer edges. Docking platforms extended like skeletal arms. A place built not for beauty, but for survival. Who built this? The pilot whispered. Aerith didn't answer. Her gaze had locked onto a single point, a figure standing at the central platform, waiting. As their vessel docked, the chamber within grew still. No one spoke. No one moved, until the airlock opened. And there, framed by the dim light of a foreign station, stood Lyra, alive, changed, and not alone. The air between them did not move. For a moment, time fractured, splintering into memory and reality, past and present colliding in silence. Era stood at the threshold of the airlock, unable to take another step. Lyra stood across from her, alive, but not untouched. She was taller now, her posture sharper, her movements deliberate. The soft radiance that once defined her had changed, tempered, focused into something more controlled. Her luminous patterns, once fluid and bright, now pulsing quieter, restrained currents beneath her skin. Scars marked her, not just physical, though there were those too, faint lines etched along her arms, her collarbone, but something deeper, something learned, earned, and beside her, the human. He did not shift as Aerith approached, did not bow, did not avert his gaze. He simply watched, measured, calm, ready. His armor was worn, layered in mismatched plates, clearly repaired countless times. It bore markings Aerith did not recognize, symbols scratched rather than crafted. A weapon rested at his side, not drawn, but never far from his hand. He stood like someone who expected danger, and survived it anyway. Mother. Lyra's voice broke the silence. Aerith inhaled sharply. That voice, different but unmistakable. She moved then, crossing the distance in a blur of light, stopping just short of touching her, as if afraid the contact might shatter the illusion. You survived, Aerith whispered. Lyra's expression softened, but only slightly. I did more than survive. Aerith's eyes searched hers. Yes, she said quietly. I see that. There was a pause. Heavy, unspoken things pressing at its edges. Then Aerith's gaze shifted to the human. Explain, she said. It was not a question. Lyra stepped forward slightly. He saved me. The human inclined his head, just enough to acknowledge her presence, but not enough to submit. Commander Elias Kane, he said. His voice was low, steady, carrying a weight that suggested command was not a title he wore lightly. Earth resistance. The word Earth registered faintly in Aeritha's memory. A distant system. Minor. Unremarkable. Or so it had been. You are far from your world, Commander, Aerith said. So are you, Elias replied. Kaylee stiffened behind her. Aerith did not. Instead, she studied him more closely. Confidence without arrogance. Defiance without hostility. Danger, contained, but undeniable. Why is a human standing at my daughter's side? Aerith asked. Elias didn't answer. Lyra did, because he never left it. They moved inside the outpost. The interior was a patchwork of cultures. Luminary energy conduits woven beside mechanical systems that hummed with crude efficiency. Screens flickered in alien languages. Weapons, many unfamiliar, lined the walls. This was not a sanctuary. It was a stronghold. Aerith absorbed everything in silence. You built this? She asked. We survived here. Elias corrected. Bill came later. Lyra led them deeper into the station, toward a central chamber where a tactical display hovered, projecting star maps layered with shifting data. Not random. Organized. Strategic. Aerith felt something tighten in her chest. This was not chaos. This was war, understood. My pod landed on a colony world. Lyra began. Outer Rim. It was already under attack. Elias crossed his arms slightly, leaning against a console, not disengaged, but allowing her to speak. Dominion forces had nearly overrun it. Lyra continued. Their defenses were collapsing. I would have been captured within hours. Aeritha's expression darkened. But you weren't, she said. No, Lyra replied. He found me first. Aeritha's gaze shifted again. Elias met it evenly. You didn't know who she was, Aerith said. No. Then why save her? A brief pause. Elias shrugged slightly. She was there. Kaylee's frowned. That's not an answer. It's the only one that mattered at the time, Elias said. There was no pride in it. No need to justify. Just fact. He got me off-world, Lyra continued. We moved constantly. Colony to colony. System to system. Running, Aerith said. Surviving, Elias corrected. Lyra nodded. At first, she stepped closer to the display, activating a sequence of recorded engagements. Fragments of battles appeared, small-scale skirmishes, hit-and-run tactics, evacuations under fire. This is what was left of the human resistance, she said. Scattered, outnumbered, but still fighting. Aerith watched closely. The tactics were different, not elegant, not precise, but effective, unpredictable. They shouldn't have lasted, Kaylee's muttered. We didn't, Elias said flatly. Not like we were. He pushed off the console, stepping forward. We lost worlds, fleets, command structures, everything that made fighting clean. His gaze flicked briefly to Aerith. So we stopped fighting clean. Lyra looked at her mother. He trained me. Aerith's expression sharpened. In warfare, in survival, Lyra corrected. Those are not the same. They are when you're losing. The words landed harder than any accusation. Aerith held her gaze. For a long moment, neither yielded. Then, what did he teach you? Aerith asked quietly. Lyra didn't hesitate. How to think like the enemy. Elias activated another projection. A Dominion vessel. Its structure shifting mid-combat, adapting to incoming attacks. They evolved during engagement, he said. You already know that. Aerith nodded once. What you don't do, Elias continued, is let them finish adapting. He highlighted points along the vessel, weaknesses not obvious but exploitable. You disrupt. You overload. You hit multiple vectors before they stabilize. Kaylee stepped closer, studying the data. That's reckless. It's effective, Elias said. It risks heavy losses. Elias met his gaze. So does losing. Silence settled again. But it was different now. Heavier. Understanding was beginning to take shape. Aerith turned back to Lyra. You been leading this? She asked. Lyra shook her head. We have. A subtle distinction, but an important one. Aerith noticed. Why come back now? She asked. Lyra stepped forward. Because we're not just surviving anymore. Elias moved beside her, not in front, not behind. Beside. We've been building something, he said. Quietly. Across systems, the Dominion wrote off as dead. He expanded the map. Signals lit up. Hidden networks. Outposts. Fleets, small but numerous. Different species. Different technologies. One purpose. A coalition, Kaylee said slowly. Elias nodded. Not an empire. Not a unified command. Something harder to break. Aerith's eyes narrowed slightly. You believe this is enough to challenge the Dominion? Elias didn't hesitate. No. A pause. Then, but it's enough to start. Lyra stepped closer to her mother. I didn't come back to be protected, she said. Aerith felt the words before she processed them. I know, she replied quietly. Lyra's voice steadied. I came back because we finally have a chance. A beat to end this. Aerith looked at her daughter. Truly looked, not as the child she had sent away, not as the memory she had mourned, but as she was now. Zalera did not recognize him at first. As Aerith's vessel descended to the upper atmosphere, the planet's defensive lattice flickered uncertainly, scanning, hesitating, recalibrating against unfamiliar signatures. The outpost had changed them. Their ship carried foreign energy patterns, layered technologies, echoes of battles fought far beyond Luminari space. For a moment, even their own world treated them as strangers. Authorization required. The system pulsed across the hull in soft, harmonic tones. Aerith stepped forward. I am Aerith, she said. The response was not immediate. Then, recognition. The lattice opened, but slowly, cautiously, like a wound that had not fully healed. Word spread before they even landed. By the time the vessel touched down within the capital's fractured docking ring, the air was thick with presence. Luminari gathered at a distance, not approaching, not welcoming, but watching. They felt it. The difference. Lyra stepped onto the platform beside her mother. The silence shifted. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Soft pulses of shared thought breaking against one another in uncertain waves. She lives, but changed, and not alone. Elias followed last. The reaction to him was immediate, sharp, uneasy, a foreign presence on sacred ground. Aerith felt the tension rise, but did not intervene. Not yet. The throne chamber had not changed, and yet it had. The great crystalline pillars still rose toward the vaulted ceiling, their surfaces reflecting faint echoes of light. The throne of resonance still pulsed at the center, connected to the living consciousness of the planet. But the harmony was fractured, subtle but undeniable. As the council assembled, the chamber filled not with unity, but with contrast. Old beliefs, new fears, unresolved grief. Aerith took her place upon the throne. Lyra stood at her right. Elias remained below, uninvited, unannounced, but unmistakably present. The tension tightened. You bring an outsider into this chamber, Elder Cyril said, her voice controlled but edged. After everything we have endured. He stands under my authority, Aerith replied. He is not Luminari. No, Aerith said. He is not. A pause. Then why is he here? Before Aerith could answer, Lyra stepped forward. Because we need him. The chamber stirred. You presume much, another elder said. You return after decades and speak, as if you understand what we have become. Lyra met their gaze. I understand what you become, she said, because I've seen what happens if you don't change. A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. Kaylee stepped in, trying to steady the exchange. Princess, this council must consider risks. The risk, Lyra interrupted, is doing nothing. Her voice carried now, not loud, but undeniable. You survived, she continued. Yes, you rebuilt. You endured. Her eyes swept across the chamber. But you did not win. Silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. Elias moved then. Just one step forward. Enough to draw every gaze in the room. You're still fighting the last phase of the war, he said. Cyril's expression hardened. You will not speak in this chamber. He will, Aerith said. The room stilled. Even Elias paused just slightly, before continuing. "You think survival is enough," he said. "That if you stay quiet, stay hidden, the Dominion will pass you by again." He shook his head once. "They won't." Aerith watched the council carefully. Some resisted. Others listened. "They adapt," Elias continued. "Not just in battle, in strategy, in expansion." He gestured to the projection Lyra activated behind him. "Dominion movement patterns spread across multiple systems. They already know you're here," he said. "They just haven't decided you're worth finishing yet." The words hit harder than any weapon. "You don't get spared twice," Elias added quietly. "And you believe you can change that?" Kaylee's asked. Elias met his gaze. "No." A pause. Then, "But we can." Lyra stepped beside him. "We're not alone anymore." The projection shifted. Signals ignited across the map. Hidden networks, allied forces, resistant cells from species Illuminari had never even encountered. A fractured galaxy, beginning to connect. A murmur spread through the chamber, this time not of fear, but of possibility. Cyril frowned. "A coalition of broken worlds is not an army." "No," Lyra said. "It's something stronger." They looked at her. She held their gaze. "It's something the Dominion doesn't understand." Aerith remained silent, watching, listening, weighing. For years, she had held her people together through caution, through restraint, through the quiet belief that survival was enough. But now, she saw it, the truth she had refused to face. Survival had cost them something, not just their world, themselves. She rose. The chamber fell instantly silent. Aerith stepped down from the throne, not as a ruler above them, but as something else, a leader among them. "We were never meant to conquer," she said. Her voice was steady, but no longer restrained. "We were meant to preserve, to protect, to endure." She turned slowly, meeting the eyes of each council member. "And we did." A pause. "But endurance alone is not enough." The words echoed, not as a challenge, as a realization. She turned to Elias, the human who stood in a chamber that was never meant for him. "You are not Luminari," she said. Elias said nothing. "But you carry something we have lost. A beat, the will to fight beyond survival." Then she turned to Lyra, her daughter, no longer lost, no longer a memory. "You left as our future," Aerith said softly, "and you have returned as our strength." Lyra didn't speak. She didn't need to. Aerith faced the chamber once more. Her light shifted. Brighter now, sharper, resonating deeper into the very structure of Zalera itself. For the first time in decades, the planet responded. The fractured harmony began to align, not as it was, but as it could become. "Prepare the fleets," Aerith commanded. The words were not shouted. They did not need to be. They carried, through the chamber, through the city, through the world, a spark. "Send word," she continued, "to every system that still resists." The projection expanded, reaching outward, beyond their borders, beyond their fear. "The Luminari do not stand alone." She raised her hand. "And we will not fall alone again." Silence followed, but it was no longer empty. It was charged, alive. Kaylee's was the first to kneel. Then another, and another, not in submission, in unity. Elias watched it unfold, arms relaxed at his sides. No triumph, no satisfaction, just quiet acknowledgement. This was only the beginning. Beside him, Lyra exhaled slowly. For the first time since returning, she felt it, not just hope, but direction. And Aerith, queen of a broken world, stood not as its remnant, but as its renewal, far beyond Zalera, in the dark between stars. Dominion fleets moved, unaware, for now, but not for long. The war had changed, and this time, the galaxy would answer back.